Picture this, a drumbeat reverberating through a small African village, a sound so primal and universal that it transcends time and geography. That very rhythm, born in the heart of Africa, is the foundation of modern music genres that dominate today's charts. From the hypnotic beats of pop to the soulful melodies of jazz, the unmistakable echoes of African rhythms are everywhere. This isn't just coincidence, it's the blueprint of global music. Africa's influence is not just about a style or a sound. It's about a spirit, an essence embedded in the DNA of music worldwide. Think of your favorite song. Chances are, its roots can be traced back to the continent that gave the world its first melodies. African beats are the lifeblood of modern music genres. Pop music thrives on syncopated rhythms, a hallmark of African drumming traditions. Jazz owes its improvisational flair to African call and response patterns. Blues emerged as an emotional outcry, shaped by the struggles of African descendants in the Americas. Hip-hop's pulsating beats and reggae's laid-back grooves. Both are steeped in African rhythmic traditions. Beyond these genres, the influence extends to electronic dance music, where producers often incorporate African drums for a more organic sound, and to classical compositions, where the pentatonic scale, common in African music, adds depth and character. This wide-ranging impact is a testament to the universality of African music. But this is more than a celebration of sound. It's about untold stories of resilience, creativity, and cultural exchange. For instance, did you know that African slaves used music not just for comfort but as a covert language to communicate plans for escape? Or that modern Afrobeats, a genre born in Nigeria, now generates billions of streams globally, rivaling major pop acts. This journey into African music is also about surprising data. Studies reveal that over 80% of contemporary global music styles have identifiable roots in African rhythms and melodies. And yet, the influence of Africa is often overlooked, reduced to footnotes in history. This video aims to change that narrative. As we delve into this story, we'll explore the origins of African rhythms, their transatlantic journey, and their profound impact on every corner of the music world. You'll hear stories of cultural resilience, see how African artists are leading today's global music trends, and uncover controversies about credit and appropriation. So, sit back and get ready to discover the untold story of African beats that shaped modern music. This is a journey of sound, culture, and legacy, a celebration of Africa's enduring heartbeat in the global music landscape. The origins of African rhythms. African rhythms are the lifeblood of the continent's music, pulsating with a vibrancy that has transcended time and space. At the core of these rhythms lies an array of traditional instruments, each steeped in cultural heritage. The djembe, a drum originating from West Africa, is known for its versatile tones, from sharp slaps to deep, resonant bass. Played with bare hands, it embodies the dynamic energy of African communities. Then there's the kora, a harp-like instrument with 21 strings, often called the African guitar, renowned for its ethereal melodies. The balafon, a wooden percussion instrument similar to a xylophone, carries a rich history of storytelling through sound, while the talking drum, shaped like an hourglass, mimics the human voice, enabling musicians to convey messages in tonal languages. These instruments are not merely tools of entertainment, they are extensions of African identity. Their rhythms and melodies are deeply woven into the social fabric, marking life's milestones, from births to funerals, harvests to healing ceremonies. Music is more than art, it's a way of life. Central to African music is rhythm. Unlike Western music, which often emphasizes melody, African music is driven by polyrhythms, multiple, interlocking rhythms played simultaneously. This complexity creates a hypnotic, almost trance-like quality that captures the listener. The call and response technique, another hallmark, fosters a sense of community. One voice or instrument leads, and others respond, symbolizing unity and dialogue. These elements form the foundation of African music's global appeal, influencing genres like jazz, blues, and hip-hop. Music in Africa is inseparable from storytelling. Each beat, melody, and lyric is infused with meaning, often recounting tales of ancestors, battles, or triumphs. Through music, African communities preserve their history, instilling values and traditions in future generations. This intimate connection between sound and story has made African music an enduring cultural force. The cultural significance of African music. African music is more than sound, it is the glue that binds communities together. In a continent where oral traditions reign supreme, music serves as a living archive, preserving histories, languages, and cultural practices. The act of singing, drumming, or playing an instrument is communal, drawing people together to celebrate, mourn, or unite in shared purpose. Spirituality is deeply embedded in African music. Songs and rhythms are used to connect with ancestors, summon deities, or heal the sick. Ceremonial music, often accompanied by intricate dances, is a sacred ritual. For instance, the Yoruba people of Nigeria use drumming to communicate with their gods, believing the rhythms open channels between the spiritual and physical worlds. Similarly, the Zulu tribes of South Africa employ songs to invoke courage before battles or celebrate victories, blending music with life's pivotal moments. Different tribes across Africa have left indelible marks on music. In Ghana, the Yu people's drumming ensembles are renowned for their rhythmic sophistication. The mbira, or thumb piano, central to Zimbabwe's Shona culture, creates haunting melodies that accompany their spiritual ceremonies. Meanwhile, in the Sahel region, griots, traditional storytellers and musicians, have long been the keepers of history, passing down epic tales through generations. This cultural depth has propelled African music beyond its borders, inspiring artists and audiences worldwide. Yet, its spiritual and communal roots remain the heartbeat of its global appeal. Data-driven insights into Africa's musical diversity. Africa's influence on music is as vast as its geography. With over 3,000 ethnic groups across 54 countries, the continent boasts an unparalleled variety of musical styles and traditions. Each tribe contributes a unique sound, reflecting its environment, language, and culture. The Igbo people of Nigeria, for example, are known for their high-energy drumming, while the Tuareg nomads of the Sahara produce haunting melodies using string instruments like the imzid. This diversity is not merely anecdotal, it's backed by research. Studies estimate that Africa is home to more than 100 traditional instruments, many of which have been adapted into global music. The The pentatonic scale, common in African music, forms the basis of melodies in genres as diverse as blues and rock. African drumming patterns, characterized by syncopation and polyrhythms, have been integrated into everything from jazz to electronic dance music. Africa's contribution to global music systems is undeniable. A report by UNESCO highlights how African music traditions have shaped global soundscapes, from Caribbean calypso to Brazilian samba. The influence is measurable, with African-inspired genres generating billions in revenue through streaming platforms, concerts, and festivals. Yet, despite this immense contribution, African music often remains underrepresented in mainstream narratives. The global music industry has only recently begun to embrace genres like Afrobeats and Amapiano, which are now topping charts and dominating playlists. This growing recognition is a testament to the timeless appeal of African rhythms and the creative genius of its artists. The roots that continue to grow. The roots of African music run deep, forming the foundation of a global musical tree whose branches span every continent. Its instruments, rhythms, and stories have not only endured but evolved, influencing and enriching countless genres. Whether through the communal call and response of gospel choirs or the syncopated beats of pop hits, the echoes of African music resonate in our daily lives. Understanding these roots is not just about appreciating a musical tradition, it's about recognizing the heartbeat of humanity itself. The transatlantic journey, African influence in the Americas. The story of African influence in the Americas begins with one of the most harrowing chapters in human history, the transatlantic slave trade. Between the 16th and 19th centuries, millions of Africans were forcibly taken from their homelands and transported to the Americas. While the physical and cultural trauma was immense, music became a lifeline, a tool of survival, resistance, and cultural preservation. For enslaved Africans, music was more than a source of comfort. It was a way to maintain their identity and resist the dehumanization they faced. In the fields, rhythmic songs coordinated the grueling labor, creating a sense of unity and shared struggle. These work songs often carried hidden messages, covertly communicating plans for rebellion or escape. African rhythms and melodies were the threads that held together the fragments of a displaced people, bridging the gap between their past and present. Through these enslaved communities, African rhythms were introduced to the Americas. Instruments like the banjo, inspired by African stringed instruments such as the ngoni, found a new home in the southern United States. Drumming, a central element of African music, was often banned by slave owners who feared its power to unite and inspire rebellion. Yet, the essence of African rhythm persisted, adapted into clapping, stomping, and singing, becoming the foundation of music that would later revolutionize the world. The birth of blues, jazz, and gospel. The African influence on American music is most evident in the creation of blues, jazz, and gospel, three genres that define the musical identity of the United States. These genres are not just byproducts of African culture, they are deeply rooted in the traditions brought over by enslaved peoples. The blues, born in the Mississippi Delta, reflects the pain and resilience of the African American experience. Its signature 12-bar structure and blue notes echo African musical scales and tonalities. The improvisational nature of the blues, where musicians express their emotions in real time, is a direct inheritance from African musical traditions that emphasized spontaneity and personal expression. Gospel music, on the other hand, grew out of the African call and response technique, where a leader sings a line and the congregation responds. This practice, deeply spiritual in nature, became a hallmark of African American churches. Gospel songs often carried messages of hope and liberation, paralleling the role of music in African spiritual ceremonies. A poignant example is the song "Swing Low, Sweet Chariot," a gospel hymn that draws on both African spiritual practices and the Christian faith adopted by many enslaved Africans. Jazz, often called America's classical music, owes its origins to African rhythms and improvisation. In New Orleans, a melting pot of cultures, African musical elements blended with European instruments to create a wholly new sound. The syncopation and polyrhythms that characterize jazz are unmistakably African. Early jazz pioneers like Louis Armstrong and Duke Ellington often acknowledged the influence of African musical traditions, creating a bridge between continents through their art. One powerful case study is the enduring influence of the African call and response technique. In gospel music, this practice became a cornerstone of worship, inspiring communal participation and emotional release. Songs like "Oh Happy Day" showcase this dynamic, with the interplay between soloist and choir creating a spiritual dialogue. This same technique can be traced to the roots of blues and jazz, demonstrating the unbroken thread of African influence. Statistical evidence of African influence. The influence of African music on American genres is not just anecdotal, it's supported by data and migration patterns. Studies reveal that over 70% of the rhythmic structures in blues, jazz, and gospel can be traced to African origins. For example, the syncopated rhythms found in jazz mirror the polyrhythmic traditions of West African drumming. These rhythms were preserved and adapted in African American communities, becoming the backbone of genres that now dominate global music. Historical migration patterns provide further evidence. The forced migration of Africans to the Americas brought a wealth of cultural traditions that would shape the New World. In the Caribbean, African rhythms mixed with indigenous and European influences to create genres like calypso and reggae. In Brazil, samba emerged as a fusion of African drumming and Portuguese melodies. The United States saw the rise of spirituals, blues, and later jazz, all deeply rooted in African musical heritage. Even today, the economic impact of African-inspired genres underscores their importance. Jazz alone generates billions annually through concerts, festivals, and album sales, with its influence extending to contemporary genres like R&B and hip-hop. Similarly, gospel music remains a cornerstone of American culture, its spiritual power continuing to inspire artists and audiences worldwide. The resilience of African music across the Atlantic. The transatlantic journey of African music is a testament to its resilience and adaptability. Despite the unimaginable hardships of slavery, the rhythms, melodies, and stories of Africa endured, finding new expression in the Americas. From the soulful cries of the blues to the improvisational brilliance of jazz, African music has left an indelible mark on the cultural landscape of the Western Hemisphere. By understanding this journey, we not only honor the contributions of African music but also recognize its enduring power to unite, inspire, and transform. It is a legacy of survival and creativity, a rhythm that continues to shape the world. The African beat in Caribbean music, reggae and ska, the drumming roots of freedom and the story of Caribbean music cannot be told without acknowledging its deep African roots, particularly in genres like reggae and ska. Reggae, synonymous with Jamaica, traces its origins to Nyabingi drumming, a Rastafarian tradition that embodies African rhythmic patterns. The Nyabingi style, derived from East African drum traditions, features pulsating beats that mimic the heartbeat, a symbol of life, resilience, and unity. This drumming style laid the groundwork for the syncopated rhythms that define reggae, creating a genre that has become a global symbol of rebellion and freedom. Bob Marley, the king of reggae, openly celebrated his African heritage in his music. His songs, such as Zimbabwe and Africa Unite, reflected his connection to the continent and its struggles for independence. Marley's use of African-inspired rhythms and themes resonated with audiences worldwide, elevating reggae to a universal language of liberation. His collaboration with African musicians and his participation in events like the 1980 Zimbabwe independence celebrations further solidified the genre's African roots. Ska, the precursor to reggae, also owes much to African rhythms. Emerging in Jamaica during the 1950s, ska blended Caribbean mento with African drumming patterns and American jazz influences. Its upbeat tempo and horn sections reflect the vibrant energy of African music, creating a style that captured the spirit of post-colonial optimism in Jamaica. Calypso and soca, African storytelling through song. Calypso and soca, two vibrant genres from Trinidad and Tobago, showcase the enduring influence of African storytelling traditions. Calypso, with its witty and often satirical lyrics, is rooted in the African griot tradition. Griots, the storytellers of West Africa, preserved history and conveyed messages through song, a practice that was adapted by enslaved Africans in the Caribbean. In Trinidad, calypso became a medium for social commentary, with lyrics addressing political issues, local events, and cultural observations. The rhythm of calypso, driven by African percussion instruments like the tambu bamboo and the steelpan, creates a captivating blend of melody and rhythm that engages listeners while conveying powerful narratives. Songs like Lord Kitchener's "London is the Place for Me" illustrate how calypso became a voice for Caribbean identity and migration stories. Soca, a more modern offshoot of calypso, emphasizes danceable rhythms and festive energy. Its name, derived from "soul of calypso," highlights its African-American and Caribbean influences. Soca artists often draw on African drum patterns and melodic structures to create tracks that dominate carnival celebrations across the Caribbean and beyond. The genre's pulsating bass lines and driving beats are a direct reflection of African musical heritage, transformed into a sound that unites dancers worldwide. Case study: how African drumming shaped Afro-Caribbean music. To fully appreciate the impact of African drumming on Afro-Caribbean music, one must delve into the evolution of the steelpan, Trinidad's national instrument. The steelpan, often associated with carnival, originated as a creative response to colonial restrictions that banned African drumming. Enslaved Africans, stripped of their traditional instruments, turned to alternative materials like bamboo sticks and eventually discarded oil drums to recreate the percussive rhythms of their homeland. The resulting instrument, the steelpan, embodies African ingenuity and resilience. Its unique tones mimic the melodic and rhythmic qualities of traditional African drumming, allowing musicians to compose both intricate rhythms and harmonies. Today, steel bands are a central feature of Trinidadian music. Their performance is a testament to the enduring influence of African musical traditions. The impact of African drumming extends beyond Trinidad, shaping genres across the Caribbean. In Haiti, the Vodou religion incorporates African drumming into its ceremonies, blending sacred rhythms with Creole influences. In Cuba, African-derived rhythms like the clave form the backbone of genres such as son and salsa, while in the Dominican Republic, the African tambora drum drives the rhythm of merengue. The unifying thread in all these genres is the African beat, a rhythmic language that transcends borders and unites cultures. Its adaptability and emotional resonance have ensured its survival, transforming Caribbean music into a vibrant celebration of African heritage. A pulse that moves the world. Caribbean music, with its infectious energy and rhythmic diversity, owes much of its vibrancy to Africa. From the Nyabingi drumming of reggae to the storytelling of calypso and the innovation of the steelpan, the African beat is the heartbeat of the Caribbean. This music, born of resilience and creativity, continues to inspire and connect people across the globe, proving that the rhythm of Africa knows no boundaries. Africa's influence on modern genres: Afrobeat and highlife, the rhythms that took the world by storm. When discussing Africa's influence on modern music, few genres resonate as profoundly as Afrobeat and highlife. Afrobeat, pioneered by Nigerian legend Fela Kuti, is a revolutionary fusion of African rhythms, jazz, funk, and high-energy political commentary. Emerging in the late 1960s, Afrobeat transformed the global music landscape with its bold beats and unapologetic messages. Fela's compositions, such as Zombie and Water Number Get Enemy, combined intricate polyrhythms with powerful lyrics critiquing corruption and oppression. His live performances, characterized by infectious rhythms and hypnotic grooves, drew audiences from around the globe and inspired a new wave of musicians. Afrobeat's global spread has been nothing short of extraordinary. Modern artists like Burna Boy and Wizkid have revitalized the genre, introducing its dynamic rhythms to younger audiences. Burna Boy's Grammy-winning album Twice as Tall reflects Afrobeat's continued evolution, blending its signature sound with elements of pop and dancehall. Meanwhile, Wizkid's collaboration with Beyoncé on The Lion King, The Gift brought Afrobeat to an even wider global audience, affirming its place on the international stage. Highlife, another genre born in West Africa, serves as a testament to Africa's ability to blend traditional and Western styles seamlessly. Originating in Ghana in the early 20th century, highlife incorporates African rhythms, brass instruments, and Western jazz influences to create an uplifting, melodic sound. Artists like E.T. Mensah popularized the genre across West Africa, and its influence extended into Nigeria, where it laid the groundwork for Afrobeat. Highlife continues to thrive today, evolving through modern artists who infuse it with contemporary elements, keeping the genre vibrant and relevant. Hip-hop and R&B, the beat of African heritage. Hip-hop and R&B, two of the most dominant genres in global music, owe much of their identity to African beats and cultural expressions. At its core, hip-hop is a rhythm-driven genre, and many of its foundational beats draw inspiration from African drumming patterns. The syncopated rhythms, call and response structures, and storytelling traditions of African music are deeply embedded in the DNA of hip-hop. One standout example of African influence in hip-hop is Kendrick Lamar's critically acclaimed album To Pimp a Butterfly. Tracks like All Right feature African-inspired rhythms and instrumentation, blending jazz, funk, and soul with African-American cultural narratives. Lamar's work exemplifies how African roots continue to shape contemporary music, fostering connections between African and African-American experiences. In R&B, the connection to Africa is equally profound. Artists like Beyoncé have frequently drawn on African themes in their music. Beyoncé's visual album Black is King was a celebration of African heritage, blending traditional African beats with contemporary R&B melodies. Tracks like Already and Brown Skin Girl highlighted the continent's influence, featuring collaborations with African artists and showcasing African-inspired choreography and visuals. Many African-American artists use their music to honor their ancestral roots, weaving African rhythms and imagery into their compositions. The result is a genre that not only entertains but also serves as a bridge between cultures, celebrating the shared heritage of the African diaspora. Electronic music and Afrofuturism, a new frontier. Electronic dance music, EDM, often associated with Western club culture, has increasingly embraced African rhythms in recent years. Producers and DJs around the world are incorporating African percussion, polyrhythms, and melodies into their tracks, creating a new wave of global electronic music. Genres like djembe, originating in South Africa, have brought uniquely African electronic sounds to international audiences. Gom's minimalist, bass-heavy beats are a stark departure from mainstream EDM, yet their hypnotic rhythms have captivated listeners worldwide, earning the genre a place on major festival stages. Afrofuturism, a cultural movement that combines African traditions with futuristic themes, has also found expression in music. Artists like Sun Ra, Janelle Monáe, and Black Coffee have embraced Afrofuturism to explore the intersection of African heritage and technological innovation. South African DJ Black Coffee, a global ambassador of African electronic music, has introduced millions to the soulful, rhythmic sounds of house music infused with African elements. His Grammy-winning album subconsciously represents a seamless blend of African musical traditions and cutting-edge electronic production. The rise of Afrofuturism in music reflects Africa's evolving role as a cultural and creative powerhouse. By reimagining African sounds through a futuristic lens, these artists are pushing boundaries and redefining the global music landscape. Statistical proof of African music's global dominance. The influence of African music on modern genres is not just cultural, it's quantifiable. In recent years, African-inspired music has dominated streaming platforms, achieving billions of streams globally. For instance, Burna Boy's African Giant and Wizkid's Made in Lagos have both surpassed 1 billion streams on platforms like Spotify and Apple Music. This data underscores the growing appetite for African music and its derivatives among international audiences. Beyond streaming, African-inspired genres are also dominating global charts. Afrobeats, for example, has produced numerous chart-topping hits, with songs like K's Love in Wantiti breaking records on platforms like TikTok and Spotify. Similarly, African-influenced tracks often feature prominently on Billboard charts, further cementing the continent's global impact. Festivals dedicated to African music, such as Afro Nation and the Cape Town International Jazz Festival, attract tens of thousands of attendees each year. These events not only celebrate African genres but also generate significant economic impact, highlighting the global demand for African-inspired sounds. Africa's continuing legacy in modern genres. The influence of African music on modern genres like Afrobeat, highlife, hip-hop, R&B, and electronic music is a testament to the continent's unparalleled creativity and resilience. From the revolutionary rhythms of Fela Kuti to the global success of djembe and Afrobeats, Africa's musical heritage continues to inspire and innovate. This legacy is more than a cultural contribution. It's a reminder of the unbreakable bonds between Africa and the global music community. Through these genres, Africa's heartbeat resonates worldwide, shaping the soundtracks of our lives. The rise of African pop culture on the global stage. Afrobeats, the new global phenomenon. And in recent years, Afrobeats has emerged as a defining force in global pop culture, captivating audiences with its infectious rhythms, dynamic melodies, and vibrant energy. This genre, originating from Nigeria, represents a fusion of traditional African sounds with contemporary elements like hip-hop, dancehall, and electronic music. At the forefront of this movement are artists like Burna, Wizkid, and Davido, whose music has transcended borders to dominate international charts and streaming platforms. Burna Boy, often referred to as the African giant, has been instrumental in propelling Afrobeats to global prominence. His Grammy-winning album Twice as Tall blends African rhythms with global sounds, delivering powerful messages of identity, resilience, and pride. Tracks like Ye and Last have not only become anthems in Africa but also resonated with audiences worldwide, earning billions of streams and topping charts in countries as far away as the United States and the UK. Wizkid, another pioneer of the genre, has consistently bridged the gap between African music and global pop culture. His collaboration with Drake on One Dance marked a turning point for Afrobeats, bringing the genre into mainstream Western consciousness. Wizkid's album Made in Lagos, featuring hits like Essence, further cemented his status as an international superstar, with Essence becoming the first Nigerian song to chart on the Billboard Hot 100. Davido, known for his catchy hooks and energetic performances, has also played a significant role in popularizing Afrobeats. His album A Good Time and hits like Fall and If have garnered massive global attention, showcasing the versatility and appeal of the genre. Together, these artists have turned Afrobeats into a global phenomenon, with its rhythms now a staple in clubs, festivals, and playlists worldwide. The impact of African pop stars extends beyond music charts. They have become cultural ambassadors, representing Africa's creativity, innovation, and resilience. Their influence is evident in the fashion industry, where African-inspired designs are increasingly featured on global runways, and in social media trends, where Afrobeats tracks provide the soundtrack for viral challenges and dances. African music in Hollywood and media. The global appeal of African music has not gone unnoticed in Hollywood and mainstream media. African beats have become an integral part of blockbuster soundtracks, adding depth, authenticity, and emotional resonance to cinematic experiences. A prime example is Marvel's Black Panther, a film celebrated not only for its groundbreaking representation of African culture but also for its soundtrack, which heavily featured African rhythms and artists. Curated by Kendrick Lamar, the Black Panther album showcased African talent such as South Africa's Babes Wodumo and Nigeria's Siava. Tracks like All the Stars and Ops seamlessly integrated traditional African sounds with contemporary beats, reflecting the film's theme of blending tradition with modernity. The soundtrack was a commercial and critical success, earning numerous accolades and introducing millions to the richness of African music. Another landmark moment for African music in media was Disney's The Lion King, The Gift, a soundtrack album curated by Beyoncé. The album, described as a love letter to Africa, featured African artists like Burna Boy, Wizkid, Tiwa Savage, and Shatta Wale. Songs like Spirit and Brown Skin Girl highlighted African rhythms, harmonies, and storytelling, celebrating the continent's culture on a global stage. The project not only elevated African music but also showcased its ability to evoke powerful emotions and connect with audiences universally. These examples underscore the growing recognition of African music's value in Hollywood. By incorporating African beats into soundtracks, filmmakers and producers are not only enhancing their projects but also acknowledging the continent's profound influence on global music and culture. Controversial insights: is African music receiving enough credit? While African music's global rise is undeniable, it has sparked debates about whether the genre and its creators are receiving adequate credit and recognition. Historically, African music has often been appropriated or overshadowed by Western artists who draw heavily on its rhythms and styles without fully acknowledging their origins. For instance, in the early days of hip-hop and jazz, African influences were evident, but the role of African culture in shaping these genres was often downplayed. Even today, some critics argue that while African-inspired music is celebrated, the artists and communities behind it do not always reap the full benefits. The global success of Afrobeats has been accompanied by concerns about fair compensation, representation, and cultural appropriation. One notable example is the case of the viral hit, Jerusalema, by South African DJ Master KG and vocalist Nomsibo Zikode. While the track achieved global success, sparking dance challenges across continents, disputes over royalties and credit raised questions about how African artists are treated in the global music industry. These controversies highlight the ongoing struggle for African musicians to gain equitable recognition and financial rewards for their contributions. Despite these challenges, progress is being made. Initiatives like Spotify's Afro Hub and Apple Music's Africa Now playlists are helping to spotlight African artists and provide them with platforms to reach global audiences. Furthermore, collaborations between African and international artists are fostering a greater appreciation for African music and its creators. The debate over credit and recognition is a reminder of the importance of valuing and respecting the cultural origins of music. As African music continues to rise on the global stage, it is crucial to ensure that its creators are celebrated, compensated, and empowered to share their artistry with the world. A global celebration of African pop culture. The rise of African pop culture, particularly through music, is a testament to the continent's enduring creativity and influence. From the infectious rhythms of Afrobeats to the powerful presence of African beats in Hollywood, African music has become a global phenomenon, inspiring artists, shaping trends, and uniting audiences across cultures. As the world continues to embrace African sounds, it is essential to celebrate not only the music but also the stories, heritage, and people behind it. Africa's voice, carried through its music, is louder and more impactful than ever before, reminding the world of the continent's invaluable contributions to global culture. African music festivals and global collaboration. Celebrating African music through festivals. Festivals are a cornerstone of cultural celebration, and African music festivals have become powerful platforms for showcasing the continent's rich musical heritage to the world. Among these, Afro Nation stands out as one of the most influential. Originating in 2019, this festival has rapidly grown into an international phenomenon, with events held in locations like Portugal, Ghana, and the United States. Afro Nation brings together leading African artists, such as Burna, Tiwa Savage, and Davido, alongside international stars who share a passion for African-inspired music. The festival's mix of Afrobeats, dancehall, hip-hop, and R&B reflects Africa's broad influence on modern genres, drawing thousands of attendees from across the globe. Similarly, the Cape Town International Jazz Festival in South Africa is another iconic event that celebrates African music's impact. Often referred to as Africa's grandest gathering, this festival features a lineup that blends African jazz legends with global stars. Artists like Hugh Masekela and Miriam Makeba have graced its stages, showcasing the unique fusion of African rhythms with jazz traditions. The festival not only highlights the continent's talent but also provides a platform for cultural exchange, where international audiences gain deeper appreciation for African music. These festivals play a crucial role in spreading African music globally. They attract diverse audiences, create opportunities for African artists to perform on international stages, and foster collaborations with musicians from other cultures. By doing so, they serve as ambassadors of African music, breaking down cultural barriers and elevating the continent's voice in the global music industry. Global collaborations, bridging cultures through music. One of the most significant drivers of African music's global rise is the wave of collaborations between African artists and international stars. These partnerships have not only introduced African sounds to wider audiences but have also enriched global music with new dimensions of rhythm, melody, and storytelling. Beyoncé's The Lion King, The Gift album is a prime example of how global stars are embracing African music. Released alongside Disney's 2019 The Lion King remake, the album was described by Beyoncé as a love letter to Africa. It featured collaborations with African artists like Burna, Wizkid, Tiwa Savage, Yemi Alade, and Shatta Wale, blending Afrobeats, Afro house, and traditional African melodies with contemporary pop and R&B. Tracks like Brown Skin Girl and Already showcased African rhythms and themes, earning critical acclaim and widespread popularity. The project not only spotlighted African talent but also demonstrated the seamless fusion of African and Western musical styles. African producers have also played a significant role in shaping global music. Master KG's viral hit Jerusalema, featuring Nonsibo Zikode, is a testament to the power of African music in the digital age. The song's infectious beat and uplifting melody sparked a global dance challenge, earning billions of streams and dominating charts worldwide. Master KG's success highlights the influence of African producers in creating music that resonates across cultures. Beyond individual collaborations, collective efforts such as global remix projects have further expanded the reach of African music. For instance, the Jerusalema remix featuring Nigerian superstar Burna brought together different African musical traditions, blending South African Afro house with Nigerian Afrobeats. These projects demonstrate how African music can serve as a bridge, connecting diverse cultures and audiences. A world united by African music. African music festivals and global collaborations are not just celebrations of sound, they are movements that unite people through shared rhythms and stories. From the electrifying performances at Afro Nation to groundbreaking partnerships like Beyoncé's The Gift, these efforts are redefining the global music landscape. They showcase the boundless creativity and influence of African music, proving that its heartbeat resonates far beyond the continent's borders. Challenges and misrepresentation of African music. Cultural appropriation versus appreciation. The global rise of African music has brought with it both celebration and controversy. One of the most pressing issues is the fine line between cultural appropriation and cultural appreciation. Over the years, Western artists have frequently borrowed African beats, rhythms, and melodies, often incorporating them into their music without adequately acknowledging their origins. While this has helped bring African sounds to mainstream audiences, it has also raised questions about fairness, credit, and respect. Examples of cultural appropriation are not hard to find. In the early days of pop and rock music, African rhythms and scales were often adapted into popular songs without any recognition of their African roots. Even today, as African genres like Afrobeats and Amapiano dominate global charts, some Western artists sample these sounds without collaborating with or crediting African musicians. Such practices risk perpetuating a historical pattern where African contributions to music are undervalued or erased. The debate is complex, as music is inherently a shared art form, evolving through cross-cultural exchange. However, the issue lies in ensuring that inspiration does not overshadow the creators. For instance, Beyoncé's The Lion King, The Gift album is often cited as a positive example of cultural appreciation. By collaborating directly with African artists and featuring their voices, she created a project that celebrated African culture while giving due credit. This approach highlights how artists can draw inspiration from Africa while respecting its creators. Striking this balance requires awareness and intentionality. Western artists and producers must take steps to recognize and credit African influences in their work. This includes collaborating with African musicians, sharing royalties, and amplifying the voices of those who have long been the custodians of these sounds. Only then can the global embrace of African music truly be a celebration rather than exploitation. preservation of traditional African music. As African music gains global popularity, there is also a growing concern about the preservation of its traditional styles. Africa's rich musical heritage, spanning thousands of years, faces threats from modernization, urbanization, and globalization. Traditional instruments like the kora, balafon, and talking drum, once central to African communities, are increasingly at risk of being overshadowed by electronic and digital sounds. One of the key challenges in preserving traditional African music is documentation. Much of Africa's musical heritage has been passed down orally, making it vulnerable to loss as older generations pass away. Unlike Western classical music, which is meticulously notated, African music often exists as living traditions that rely on memory and practice. Without proper documentation, many unique styles and techniques could disappear. Efforts to protect and celebrate traditional African music are growing, led by both artists and organizations. Institutions like the International Library of African Music, ILAM, have been working to record and archive traditional songs and performances, ensuring that future generations can access this rich heritage. Similarly, festivals like the Festival in the Desert in Mali highlight traditional styles, bringing them to global audiences while preserving their authenticity. African artists themselves are also playing a crucial role. Musicians like Toumani Diabaté, a virtuoso of the kora, and Salif Keita, a champion of Mandinka traditions, have dedicated their careers to keeping traditional African music alive. By blending traditional sounds with modern influences, they bridge the gap between the past and the present, ensuring that these art forms remain relevant in contemporary contexts. Technology is another valuable tool in preservation. Platforms like YouTube and Spotify allow traditional African music to reach global audiences, creating a digital archive that can be accessed and appreciated by anyone. Additionally, educational programs in Africa are teaching younger generations to play traditional instruments, fostering pride in their musical heritage. The fight to protect Africa's musical identity. The challenges facing African music, whether through cultural appropriation or the loss of traditional styles, are a reminder of the need for vigilance in protecting this invaluable cultural treasure. African music is not just entertainment, it is a repository of history, identity, and community. Ensuring that it receives the respect, recognition, and preservation it deserves is essential for honoring the continent's past while celebrating its future. The future of African music. Africa is a hub for music innovation. Africa has emerged as a powerful force in global music innovation, driven by a dynamic generation of artists who are reshaping the industry. In the streaming era, African musicians have leveraged digital platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube to amplify their reach, connecting with audiences far beyond the continent. Artists such as Burna Boy, Wizkid, and Tiwa Savage are not only dominating streaming charts but are also setting trends that influence global music production and consumption. The accessibility of streaming platforms has transformed the way African music is discovered and distributed. Once limited by geographical barriers, African artists can now upload their music to platforms like YouTube, reaching millions instantly. Spotify's Afro Hub and Apple Music's Africa Now playlists have further boosted the visibility of African genres, showcasing the diversity of the continent's soundscapes. These platforms not only amplify established stars but also provide a stage for emerging talent, creating a thriving ecosystem of creativity and innovation. Technology has also revolutionized how African music is produced. Mobile recording studios, affordable music software, and digital distribution channels have democratized the industry, allowing artists from remote regions to produce and share their work. Social media platforms like TikTok and Instagram have been instrumental in propelling African songs to viral fame, as seen with tracks like Master KG's Jerusalema. These tools enable African artists to bypass traditional gatekeepers, taking control of their narratives and careers. Predictions for African music's global impact. The global influence of African music shows no signs of slowing down. Emerging genres like Amapiano, Afro-trap, and Afro-house are already capturing international attention, with their distinct sounds resonating across cultures. Amapiano, a South African genre characterized by its deep bass lines and soulful melodies, has grown from local clubs to global stages, becoming a staple in DJ sets worldwide. Similarly, Afro-trap, blending African rhythms with the energy of trap music, is gaining traction among younger audiences. Looking ahead, African music is poised to make waves in the metaverse and virtual concert spaces. With the rise of virtual reality and blockchain technology, artists are exploring new ways to connect with fans. Virtual concerts, which gained popularity during the COVID-19 pandemic, offer limitless possibilities for African musicians to showcase their talent in immersive, interactive environments. Imagine attending a Burna Boy concert in the metaverse, complete with 3D visuals inspired by African landscapes and cultures. Such experiences could redefine how audiences engage with African music, making it even more accessible to global fans. The metaverse also presents opportunities for African artists to monetize their work through NFTs, non-fungible tokens, and virtual merchandise. By creating unique digital assets tied to their music or performances, artists can generate additional revenue streams while building stronger connections with their fanbase. These innovations are not just futuristic concepts, they are already being explored by forward-thinking African musicians and producers. Data and statistics, projections for growth by 2030. The economic impact of African music is substantial and growing rapidly. According to industry reports, Africa's music market is projected to reach $2 billion by 2030, driven by rising digital adoption, a burgeoning youth population, and increased global interest in African genres. Streaming revenue, in particular, is expected to see exponential growth as internet penetration continues to expand across the continent. Nigeria, often referred to as the epicenter of African music, is leading the charge. The country's music industry contributes over $600 million annually to its GDP, a figure that is set to double in the coming decade. South Africa, Ghana, and Kenya are also emerging as key players, with vibrant music scenes and increasing international collaborations. The global reach of African music is evident in streaming numbers. Spotify's data shows that Afrobeats has become one of the platform's fastest-growing genres, with billions of streams annually. Similarly, YouTube reports that African artists like Davido and Diamond Platnumz are consistently among the most watched musicians on the platform, drawing viewers from every corner of the globe. Live music and festivals are another area of significant growth. Events like Afro Nation and the Cape Town International Jazz Festival generate millions in tourism revenue while providing platforms for African artists to connect with international audiences. As global demand for African music continues to rise, these events are expected to expand further, solidifying Africa's role as a hub for cultural exchange and musical innovation. A bright future for Africa's soundtrack. The future of African music is bright, dynamic, and full of possibilities. As technology breaks down barriers and artists continue to innovate, African music is not just influencing the global stage, it is shaping it. Emerging genres, immersive technologies, and a thriving youth-driven market are setting the stage for unprecedented growth and creativity. By 2030, African music is expected to be a dominant force in the global industry, defining trends, breaking records, and inspiring generations to come. The rhythm of Africa is not just a sound, it is a movement, a pulse that connects the world and reminds us of the power of music to unite, heal, and inspire. Africa's influence on global music is a story of rhythm, resilience, and creativity. As we've journeyed through the origins of African rhythms, their transatlantic voyage, and their profound impact on modern genres, it's clear that Africa is not just a contributor to the global music landscape, it is its heartbeat. From the traditional beats of the djembe to the modern soundscapes of Afrobeats, African music has shaped the world's soundtrack, connecting cultures and generations through its universal language. Throughout history, African music has proven its ability to transcend borders. It has laid the foundation for blues, jazz, and gospel in the Americas, infused the Caribbean with its vibrant energy, and influenced the rise of genres like hip-hop, R&B, and electronic music. Today, it continues to evolve, finding new expressions in emerging genres and digital platforms. This legacy is not just about sound, it's about storytelling, identity, and the enduring power of community. Recognizing Africa's role in music enriches our appreciation of global culture. Every beat, melody, and lyric carries the spirit of a continent that has used music to survive, resist, and celebrate. Understanding this influence helps us see music not as isolated genres but as interconnected expressions of humanity. Whether it's the call and response of gospel choirs or the polyrhythms of electronic dance tracks, the echoes of Africa remind us of music's ability to unite and inspire. As African music continues to rise on the global stage, there is an opportunity, and a responsibility, for listeners worldwide to support its creators. By exploring African music, attending festivals, streaming albums, and amplifying the voices of African artists, we contribute to the celebration and preservation of this rich heritage. More than ever, African musicians deserve recognition, fair compensation, and platforms that allow them to share their artistry with the world. The rhythm of Africa is not just a historical artifact, it is alive, dynamic, and shaping the future of music. By embracing and supporting this legacy, we honor the continent's profound contribution to our shared global culture. So, the next time you press play on a song, take a moment to recognize the journey of its rhythm. And if you haven't already, dive into the world of African music. You might just discover the heartbeat that connects us all. The story of African music is far from over. Its beats will continue to pulse, its melodies will keep inspiring, and its legacy will live on in every note we hear. Let Africa's music be a reminder of the creativity and resilience that defines not only the continent but also the human spirit. Thank you for taking this journey. Let's celebrate, support, and amplify African music together.